And on today's show, how combining tax-deferred products can deliver growth and income. Part 5 of this week's series on new tax reduction strategies with nationally recognized product taxation expert Ken Davis, CLU, CHFC, CFP, and CPA. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Ken.
Hey,
Day 5. Man, I have to say, this has been a great week. And if you've missed any of our shows, I highly suggest you watch it in chronology, Monday through Thursday,
It builds.
so you can get a good eye. Because yes, it's a good tutorial process if you stay within the sequence. Ken, let's talk about it. We're talking about a couple things here. And I want to talk about, first of all, in the olden days, we used to do combination annuities like there was no tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Combo. I took an SPIA immediate. I tied it to a deferred. It was the name of the game. And then all of a sudden, interest rates went, basically to hell in a handbasket.
Well, and also tax brackets went down. There was two things that drove it. One, by doing the combination annuity, part deferral and part income, we would drop the tax brackets. Well, when tax brackets used to be 70% or even 50%, then dropping a tax bracket was pretty meaningful. Well, then Reagan came in and dropped them down to 28%. Now they're creeping back up again, and that's why we're starting to talk about them. And then the other element, of course, was interest rates. It's like, okay, roughly I'd take 2/3 and throw it into a deferred annuity that in 10 years would grow back to the original 100 grand. So I put 70 in the deferred, 30 in the immediate.
I've noticed in our plate here, it kind of gives this combination. It takes a traditional CD rate, and of course, you compare
3.5% that doesn't exist.
Yeah, like that doesn't exist. This is again off Backroom Technician, and this just gives you the kind of side-by-side impact of using a combination annuity, a SPIA and a deferred, against a CD, which by the way still can be done. It doesn't have that glamour when the rates are higher. But now that you say that the tax bracket, maybe that becomes a mitigating issue of why we look at this again.
Well, it does become one, and even more importantly, the new paradigm, the modern version of this is, this used to emphasize regaining and recapturing principal. We started at 100, we divided at 70-30, and we grew it back to 100. Great concept. But today, we've realized that our retirees, what are they most concerned about?
Income.
They're more concerned about not running out of income. So if instead of doing a capital growth back, we used a lifetime income benefit rider where we had guaranteed 5, 6, 7% per year compound, so that at the end of, say, 10-year period of time of using different kinds of annuities, we now clicked over into an indexed annuity with a lifetime income benefit rider. We're not guaranteeing replacement of the principal. We are, though, guaranteeing a lifetime income and maybe at an increased level. So that allows us to throw more into the immediate annuity, creating a higher current income, and then creating that higher income in later years with the guaranteed withdrawal, as opposed to regaining principal and reinvesting it.
Well, now, when we talk about combination annuities, that's how I think our producers look at it. These two products, SPIA and deferred. When we talk about laddered annuities using several, you're talking about an issue of duration. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, what we can do is, let's say we had a husband and wife, both 65, and we bought an immediate annuity that paid for 5 years. Not going to pay us a whole lot, but most of it is return of principal. Okay? It's a straight line amortization of basis, okay, that we get to deduct against the income. So very little taxation on that. The remainder goes into, say, 2 deferred 5-year annuities, fixed if you want guarantees, right? So we use the immediate for 5 years. It's done. Principal and interest, all gone. We turn the switch on the second deferred annuity, or actually the first deferred annuity, and we annuitize that for 5 years. Same thing. We amortize our basis over 5 years. Very little taxation. 10 years has gone by now. We take the third piece and we turn that on, and that goes for another 5 years. Our 65-year-old couple are now what? 80 years old? Well, there's some pretty cool things that can happen there. We could have an indexed annuity saying, hey, 15 years should be enough for the power of the market to work pretty good. And yes, there is some risk there, but pretty high probabilities that this is going to be a nice chunk of cash. We could throw a lifetime income benefit rider on it to guarantee there's income. We could even throw an indexed universal life in there, again, taking more risk. But we normally don't buy life insurance on 65-year-old people, but having 15 years for that to grow is a pretty high probability, I would say, of success, and of course with the much higher cap rates, and then of course the tax-free distributions and tax-free death benefit, that combination of an immediate annuity for 5 years, 2 5-year deferreds, and an index universal life can be a pretty powerful combination.
Now we're combining tax deferral and tax-free.
Correct.
And remember, if you're saying, well, my clients are just too old or not healthy enough for insurance, remember, within the family, the immediate bloodline, you may be able to use substitute or surrogate insureds as the policy insured. So you don't have to worry about that. You can still own the policy, you can still have the control, the payor, even be the beneficiary of it. But if you're looking to find out who has the lowest cost of insurance to really make this work, when we come back, we're going to try to tie this whole week up and give you a summary statement on this, because this is great. We're talking about taxation, and we're talking about mitigating it through tax-deferred products. We'll be right back in about 30 seconds. Back in the day, life insurance professionals were called field underwriters. Then, carriers trained their field force in the basics of life insurance underwriting. Today, the insurance industry doesn't educate the agent population as they once did. But now you can have the Informed Risk Guide at your fingertips so you can illustrate a reasonable rate class for your life insurance prospects. Just request your copy of the Informed Risk Guide at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. It's free from Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to the second segment. Ken, we just got done doing our combo annuity, our laddering annuity, our mix and match with annuities and life insurance. Why did we bring this up? People say, Steve, why is this in a tax show? We're getting ready to do our 1040. If you tastefully understand the strategies and tactics that we're talking about, you can deploy those now. This is a good time to talk about it for future taxation reasons. You might as well get your client talking about it. They're already saying, I'm paying too much taxes.
It's the time of the year that people are very aware of taxation. They're in the midst of gathering their data, meeting with their CPAs, advisors, whatever. This is on their mind, so they're motivated to take action. The momentum is with us instead of against us. So it's a good time to say to the client, look, I know you'd love to have a tax deduction. Mm-hmm. I know that would feel better. I'm here to tell you that the deferral, essentially a small tax deduction every year, all that money that would have gone to the government taxes gets reinvested and growing, and essentially getting smaller tax deductions each and every year. Mm-hmm. And each time you build on this asset, those get larger and larger. Tax deferral takes some planning. It takes some patience where you do it at the beginning of the year. We're in February now. By the time the show airs, we're going to be in April. So we're about 4 months into it, or 3.5 months, but they have plenty of time to be buying assets that will build up tax-deferred income and stuff and start laying the groundwork for the future. It's the old, you got to drain the swamp to get rid of the alligators, right? Mm. You can't just keep shooting the alligators and hoping it's all going to go away. You have to do something and do planning for the future. Not quite as satisfying up front, but boy, as time goes by, especially like on Roths and stuff like that, where you're taking out and say, wow, there's no taxation on this. Wow, I did some really good planning 10 years ago. Pat myself on the back. So that's why we're bringing this up. And we're also bringing up the fact that tax deductions are pretty much gone. The 1986 Act killed the old shelter game, killed a lot of the tax deductions, had reduced tax rates as well. But now those tax rates have gone up, and we don't have the tax deductions anymore. So what we have to focus on is tax deferral and better tax rates, like with cap gains and things like that.
When you consider that we're talking, there's about 3 calendar points for financial advisors to look at, especially for annuities and life insurance as a mitigating issue for taxation. Of course, there's right now, during April, 1040 day, taxes are due on the 15th. And then you're also looking at the end of the year, when they're doing end of the year planning. And a third one that you may not be aware of, you don't really want to talk too deeply with a CPA right now in the middle of April. They're just swamped. But right around May 15th or so, right after that, their plate gets a little freer. And this is the time where you spend the two points as an advisor, April 15th and the end of the year, with the client. After May 15th, this is the time when you start introducing this to your CPA and tax attorneys as a concept issue to start networking. And I recommend, again, a 1040 overlay. This is one of the biggest pieces of conversion material that you can get a CPA to look at, and he's looking for that, and that actually does it for him.
Well, and remember, after tax season's over, yes, they still have some other tax filing dates and extensions and stuff to do, and some vacations and stuff. But, like into July and August, things are slowing down quite a bit. It's a good time to take those clients that you identified and need to do some tax planning and say, let's go knock on your CPA's door. Let's talk to your enrolled agents about your tax situation. And sit down with them in a meeting and say, look, we need to plan for the future, and there's some things we can do for your client, but it doesn't make sense for me to do them unless you as a tax advisor can show the benefit to the client. We want you to run the numbers. We don't want to be doing this blind. Well, what did you just do? You just gave the CPA some chargeable hours during the slower summer months. Generally, tax planning, they charge at higher rates. You've just demonstrated your professionalism by saying, hey, I care about the client. I want to work with you as a team member. They're going to look at you a whole lot differently than if the client walked in and said, my insurance guy wants me to buy this Index Universal Life, and he showed me this really cool stuff, and I'm so excited about it. And the CPA says, what? No, they're just making huge commissions.
Sure.
Just dismiss this guy, go away. But if you walk in and you show it to them and you demonstrate in real numbers, and you're including them as a team player and showing them you're a true professional, you can start making some friends. Not always. It isn't always going to work. But boy, after you're not only going to get that client sale, and you're not going to get the CPA behind the scenes saying no, you're going to get more yeses and possibly referrals. So this is an opportunity to grow your business.
Here's a little marketing tip as we close out our segment. H&R Block has a huge commercial on right now about America leaving $1 billion of taxes, and they show the big stadium where they put these, $500, I think it's $500, maybe more, where they put these pile of money on every seat, and they're saying that's how much we're leaving on the table because we're not looking to this. I took that little clip and I just sent that to all kinds of people. They're saying, wow, Steve, I didn't realize that we were leaving money on the table. What do? I said, you need to go to your CPA and ask them, are there any proactive things that I can do? And in our land, we're now partnering with that CPA to say, not only are they traditional, but we think there's a new approach to play, as we said at our first show. And using that commercial has been kind of an introduction, and we've been using it on social media. It works really great to get consciousness among the consumer. Well, that's our show for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. And don't forget, you can view any of our past episodes at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you next week.